All right, thank you, Prince William County Dataknots. Next up, we have Kearney Dataknots.
Oh. 14. Ooh, just kidding.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Gable. I'm a senior manager with Kearney & Company. We're a CPA firm based out of Alexandria, Virginia. And so what we did as part of our solution today is we looked at funding related to transparency and oversight for opioid programs. And so we actually developed a dashboard that aligns funding with where there's actually a need based on death rates and also other risk indicators. So these were the overall objectives. We focused on this one right here. How might we increase accountability and transparency of the funding provided towards battling the opioid crisis? So our problem statement was looking at, is there a need for greater transparency and oversight of resources? And what we actually found is that there's $22.5 million from 2016 that was funded but never spent related to opioid programs. So there's an opportunity here as you get better transparency over this issue and the funding associated with it to better use available resources.
So imagine if you had caught this 22.5. So all these apps you guys presented today, this great analysis, could be used to fund any of that. So wasting $22.5 million, not taking advantage of the resources that we have is critical.
Yeah, your level of funding is completely tied to, the success of any objective for any program. So this is very important. So our solution, what we did is we identified the rate of abuse by drug type in Virginia. We calculated the amount of federal awards obtained for substance abuse and opioid prevention. We also calculated the amount of expenditures actually spent towards treatment and prevention in the state of Virginia. So this included funding at the state level as well. And then we aligned spending with health opportunity indicators that Virginia already measures. So this is the way forward that we came up with. Increased transparency and oversight related to opioid programs. Federal government is moving towards a dedicated fund to monitor opioid spending. Right now, Virginia's opioid resources are buried in other funds, and so it's very difficult to get down to the level that you need to get that transparency. Maximize obtaining discretionary federal grant money to combat opioid use. Currently, Virginia is only receiving about 4% of $700 million that's available for this program. Reevaluate distribution of funds based upon need and related risk factors. So that takes us to the dashboard that we built. So what we really honed in on was where there was a disparity between where there was a need. So that's your mortality rate here. And then also the overall risk indicators and then the total funding as well. And so as you can see, right here with Dickinson, it has a 40.1% mortality rate, which is very high in the area, but it received no funding. And it has several of the risk indicators that we identified and that the state of Virginia is already measuring. So here you have an opportunity, again, to better align where you're spending your money, give visibility over that, and make sure it makes sense. Make sure you're spending it where the risk exists and where you're not seeing a whole lot of movement on the issue. Our data sources included various local, federal, and state open data sources. And so what we really did is looked at these disparate sources, combined them, and then compared the information and came up with a viable solution.
Yeah, so just a quick highlight. So everyone's presented dashboards at this point, but just a quick shot, right? So we're looking at the top here is your profile of fatal overdoses. So that's your 1,100 overdoses. Darker colors, darker colors, more overdoses. You can see Dickinson here in the bottom left, right? Definitely stands out in its region compared to its other localities, right? And then the bottom is funding, right? So more funding is given to the darker areas here, right? And then when you basically do a compare between where we're funding and where we have need, all right?
These red areas, that's where you have the biggest disparity between where there's a need and where funding is being spent.
Right, so red is overfunding. You're throwing money at a problem that it doesn't really exist when compared to population-adjusted size. You're looking here at Dickinson, right, the lighter yellow colors, right? This is where we're talking about where there's a strong need but lack of funding, right? So basically it's backwards. We're throwing money out there because we see lots of people have a problem. You know, there's a lot of people that live in Fairfax County, Loudoun, Alexandria, Arlington, but when you compare it to the size of the population, it's not as big of a problem.